Hello everyone. Here we're going to be going ahead and checking the brakes on a 2009 EZGO RXV gas golf cart. Just noticed that there's been a lot of brake dust and a little bit of grinding, or whatever you want to call it, I guess, when I go ahead and stop. Now, I'm hoping that I won't have to replace the pads and maybe it's just going to go ahead and clean them up a little bit. I went ahead and talked to a golf cart dealer, and they've kind of advised that it's likely not needing a brake, not pads, brake shoe replacement for these drum brakes, but likely they might just be glazed over. So we're gonna go ahead and get this taken out. So I went ahead and took the tire off. As you can see, pretty straightforward. From here, you're gonna see that there's a castle nut right here, and then there's this pin, retaining pin. So we just, normally this is bent all the way over, or spread out a little bit so it doesn't come out, but went ahead and straightened that out as best I could. We'll just go ahead and remove this pin. Come on. We're definitely going to be straightening that thing out when before we put it back in. And then next is to remove this castle nut. I believe it's going to be maybe an 11/16 or something like that. I'll go ahead and grab that and we'll get that taken off and should be able to remove this entire housing to take. Okay, so in true form of really anything that I'm doing here as a home project, I always need to run out and find some other tool, because what I've got apparently doesn't work, even though that I've got a plethora of wrenches and sockets and everything like that. So this castle nut, as I mentioned, I thought it was like maybe a 15/16, 11/16, something like that. Turns out it was a 1 1/8. So it's a monster. So if you don't have that, make sure you have a 1 1/8 socket to take that off. Just use my impact gun and went ahead and loosened this up. So take the castle nut off, and we should be able to remove the hub. And here's the washer that also goes on it. I'll set those aside, and we'll see if we can go ahead and get this thing off. Oh yeah, slides off pretty easy. Okay, so here we're seeing the brake pad, or the brake shoe. It is pretty glazed over, as you can see here. It's nice and shiny, but there's a lot of life left on these pads. So as the gentleman said at the dealer, chances are these things are not, you probably don't need pads. So get a little closer here for you so you can see. So here is the metal, and then there's a ton of life left on these pads. So we should be able to just go ahead and get them cleaned up. You can see that this is nice and this is all smooth and everything like that. We don't really want that. We want to just be able to scuff that up so it stops a little bit better and everything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my scrub pad, and we'll get them cleaned up here. What I'm using is just a Scotch-Brite. It's a 3M pad. I picked it up. They're a couple dollars for like 3 of them. So we'll just go and scuff up the entire shoe here. Kind of try to get that glaze off of it as much as we possibly can. Damn it. All right. Knock that over. So you can kind of see now it's not quite as shiny as what it was before. So this seems to be kind of doing the trick here a bit. Yeah, that looks pretty good there. I'm just going to go ahead and do the other side. I'm not taking this off at all, just because these, if I don't have to replace the shoes, it's kind of a pain in the ass to get these things back on. So just do the scrubbing right on here. Now, if I had to replace them, you just remove the two springs here, then it should all collapse. There's little retainer rings or retainer clips here that you need to also remove, and everything, the shoes should just come right off. Then you've got the I don't know what you want to call it, the adjuster screw or whatever you want to call it here, that holds the pad to the outside of the drum, or the shoe to the outside of this drum. This is pretty dirty in here, so I'm going to go ahead, I'll scuff up the inside of this as well, and then we'll get back to reassembly. But while you're in here, might as well go ahead and get some brake clean and stuff squirted in there to clean up the dust a little bit and make things function really well. So we'll get back to it when we get the reassembly. Okay, we got everything kind of cleaned up in there. Looks a lot better, much cleaner, and since we had it opened up, might as well just squirt a little bit of the brake clean in there. Went ahead and also shined up the inside of the drum as well. And then also when you do that, make sure you obviously have something to catch the cleaner in there. Otherwise it's going to drip out and get everywhere. One thing I should mention, when you're taking off the castle nut, you're going to want to go ahead and set the brake and push the brake in, just so the shoes will hit on the outside of the drum, and that way it'll hold it in place so the wheel and everything doesn't spin. So we'll go ahead and get everything put back on here. Goes on pretty much the exact same way as it came off, and just put the drum itself on there. Splines will line up and just slides right on. So here you can see we didn't do any adjustments to the brakes or anything. If you needed to do that, there's, as I mentioned, the adjustment screw is right up here, but you would do that normally after you install new brakes, and you do that through this little hole right here. You could line it up when you put it back on. And well, now come on here. Of course, it's not giving me problems. There's splines in there that you need to line up real good. So okay, well, seriously, there we go. Okay, so this will just twist around, and you can find this hole and get a screwdriver, put it in there, and make the adjustments. But right now we want it to turn freely and with very little resistance. Right now the brake is off. So when I go ahead and we'll put our castle nut and washer back on, one thing you need to keep in mind is there's this little hole here for the pin, and I'll show you what that is for here in a second. Washer goes on, castle nut. So, and this castle nut, it's blocking right now, but I'm going to get my torque wrench and torque this down. It should be at least at 80 foot-pounds, if not a little bit more, but this is not like a trailer. You're going to want to make sure that this is nice and tight in there and tight up against the hub or against the drum here. Just because if it's loose, or if you back it out after replacing the pin, you're going to have some problems here with it wobbling, and then you're going to possibly have to replace a lot more parts. So I'm going to go ahead, get my torque wrench, and we'll get it cranked down. Okay, I've got my torque wrench set at actually 90. So we're going to crank. Oh, and see, here's what I'm talking about, where you're going to need to make sure that you want to set the brake. So let me do that. That way it'll hold this in place. And I have it set at 90, so we'll see. Okay, well, this is still turning a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead, lower the jack down so the other wheel won't spin. Hopefully with that, I'll be able to get the torque done on this. So then we'll obviously jack it back up once we get this torque down. So okay. So that is not working the way that I want it to. So we're going to need to figure out a way to go ahead and stop this thing from spinning. I think I got a 2x4 or something. I'm just going to stick underneath the lug nut here. Let me try to find that. Okay, let's give this a try here. We got a 2x4 stuck underneath there, so well, now I'm just cranking the whole thing up. What in the world here? I don't know how the hell this is supposed to work. Got the brake set, everything, it's just moving in there. Not, and I'm just lifting up the entire cart. Okay, well, I hope that somebody else has better luck with this, but we should just be able to go ahead and tighten this down. It's not quite at 90 yet. Okay. Well, we learn by doing, right? Let me try to figure out another way to do this. Okay, so in true genius fashion, I was pulling up on the torque wrench, but we go down and just, well, that's why Isaac Newton did what he did. So there's 90 foot-pounds. Looks like we've got a good, there's the hole where the pin will go in. So let's see if we can weasel this puppy in there. Okay, yeah, that thing's pretty bent up. I'm gonna need to, probably can't see it. Make sure this is straight when it goes back in. So we gotta do a little bit of rigging here. There we go. So here, and then the pin, when you take it out, it will have been bent up as such. Well, that, and then you can bend this one the other way or whatever. Oh my gosh, Ryan, seriously. So much for holding a phone while doing this. There, just bend it with the thumb. Okay, so we got our pin back in. A little loose, which means that this is tight back down to 90 foot-pounds. And yeah, from there we'll just go ahead, get the wheel put back on, and should be good to go. Hope you all learned a little something here today through my trial and error. So good luck. Thanks.